Hello everyone, DaveDev here. In today's video, we're going to take our initial steps on PHP programming. In particular, we are going to take a look on how to print the stuff on the screen, how to use variables, and how to use loops and functions and many other things. So the first thing that we are going to do is to set up our PHP script file in order to be able to execute it and test it. I am using XAMPP. As I said in previous videos, PHP is a server language, so you will need a web server in order to execute PHP. So for this purpose, I am using XAMPP. And if you don't know how to set it up and install, please take a look at my other videos that I talk about it in depth. So assuming that you have XAMPP installed, let's just take a look. And if we click into the Explorer and we create our project here, and in public, we will create our index.php file. And now if we go to our VS Code, we can see here that we have the script. So in order to start programming in PHP, you will need to specify a couple of tags in order to say to the server that this is PHP code. This is done by just placing this PHP and this. So in between those tags, we will place all of our PHP code that we are going to execute. And let's do a very simple test first. This is basically going to print this string into our page. And I am using Echo for this. So let's go to our web browser and here it is. So if we take a look at the code in behind, we can see that we have only printed hello world. The other tags have been placed by default by our web browser because it's assuming that this is HTML. But as you can see, it's very simple to print things into the screen. One of the great things about PHP is that you can combine HTML with PHP. So you could perfectly do something like this. So as you can see here, I am specifying an heading 1 tag for HTML, but the actual content of the tag is on PHP. So if we go back to our browser and refresh, and here it is. As you can see, we have an H1 with title. As you can imagine, we can do so many things mixing HTML with PHP. This gives you a lot of freedom. You can do anything really, as long as you know how to program those applications. But let's go back to our PHP and go step by step because it's a long journey and we need to know exactly what we are doing. Okay, let's start with a simple variable. In order to specify a variable, you need to write the following: the $sign and then the name of the variable, for example, var, and then equal, and then the value that you want. If you have some previous experience with programming in general, you may notice that we have not specified the type for this variable. As you can see, the type for this in particular is an int or integer, but we have not specified this. This is basically because PHP is a loosely typed language, meaning that it automatically associates the data type to the variable, which is very handy for particular cases, but it can be a little bit messy later on if you don't know what type are you working on. There's also good to mention that from PHP 7 onwards, you could specify the type of the variable in particular cases if you want to force a type for any particular reason. However, it's very specific for the cases scenario. For example, in this case, we could not specify it because this is a normal variable. It should be inside of a function argument or inside of a class parameter. We will take a look at that later on. But for now, let's just assume that all variables can be any type at any given point. Let's just continue with this. PHP allows multiple data types For example, we can specify integer. We can also specify strings. You can also specify floats or doubles just by putting a dot. And you can also specify booleans, which are true or false. And you can also specify arrays, which is like a list of other type of variables. Let's go back to the integer and see what we could do with it. In order to know exactly how the PHP script works in the background, we are going to use our debugger tool here. If you don't know how to set this up, please take a look at my other videos, which I show all the steps to go through to set this up on VS Code. So assuming that you have the PHP debugger set up, we are going to continue. So we have our variable, which is storing the value 1, and we are going to increment its value. Var++, it's similar to doing var. It's equal to var plus 1. Which is basically increasing the current value of var and adding just 1 to it. So this technically would give you 2 at the end of the execution. This function allows us to debug all the values that a variable is storing. This is mainly used for debugging purposes only. So if we go back to our page and refresh, okay, we can see that it's an integer of 3. Okay, why is it? So let's just put a breakpoint here and we will see what it's actually doing. Okay, we are here and the first line variable is on initialize. But if we step to the next line, variable it's 1, which makes sense because we just set the variable to 1. Now we step again and variable it's 2 because we increased it by 1. And then if we step again, variable is 3 because we increased it again after the second time. And then we printing and then the program is over. Okay, this is a simple way of using integers. We can use many other math operations with integers or floats. For example, we can, let's just multiply by 10. And we can also divide it by 10. Let's just divide it by 2. And you can also subtract from it. Let's see what this does. Okay. So we have 1 at the beginning. Now it should be 10 because we are multiplying 1 per 10. Now it should be 5 because we are dividing it by 2. And then it should be 3 because we are removing 2 from it. This is the end of today's video. In our next video, we're going to take a look more in depth on how to operate with number variables such as floats, integers, doubles, and how to do math operations with them. Thank you for staying until this point and see you on the next one.